buttons to push.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Bucky Call. It is Wednesday, the 17th of December, 2025. We're here to study again from Cosmometry by Marshall Lefferts and his insights into Buckminster Fuller, which is and always has been the core of our study. Manu, that is a great shirt on you. My goodness, look at him in that color. He looks like a teenager. That's really a good color for you. And Susan, you're looking good in red too. I'll go through compliment all of you if you want me to. You all look great this morning, so good to be with you. Manu, how you feeling, and what's your intention for the call today?
Great, young. I feel good.
Feel good.
I
Feel
expect
good.
to write. I expect a beautiful ride. That's me.
Thank
Lee,
you.
how do you feel? What do you expect?
Who?
Lee.
Lee, yeah. She's having a hard time coming off mute, apparently.
Okay. Fred, how do you feel? What do you expect?
Okay, thank you. Lee, you need to unmute, and then I will pass it on to you. I'm feeling cold. Actually, it's a little bit chilly, especially sitting in front of a computer without moving. So I've been moving, and I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling okay. It's not the best period of the year here. It's the days are short. It's cold. China doesn't celebrate Christmas, so there's no preparations for there's no festive atmosphere and all that. And it's usually the time of the year I fly back to Europe to see family, but not this year. This year I'm staying here. So I'm looking at the upcoming 2 weeks, a little bit grayish. So that's how I'm feeling here. Cold and gray, and I'm looking forward to sunshine and springtime. And my expectation for today, I'm expecting I will understand better than last week, because last week was tough on me. Uh, that's uh, that's my desired expectation. Lee, how are you feeling, and what is your desired takeaway? I see you're unmuted.
I'm feeling great now. I put my phone onto a new update, and I haven't figured out that update yet.
Yeah, it's giving me heck too, Lee. So it's not just you. But iOS, is it an iPhone iOS 26?
It is an iPhone,
Whoa, that kicked my butt.
and it's so confusing. But I'm getting a new phone for Christmas. My two sons are buying me a brand new, I think it's going to be a Sony instead of an iPhone.
Samsung.
Oh, it's a Samsung. So I'm going to enjoy it. I'm looking forward to learning more today and did not want to miss it. So, Susan, were you chosen yet?
No,
How do you feel? And what would you like to take from today?
I feel happy to be with you folks, which says a lot because I certainly didn't want to get out of bed.
Mm.
Uh,
Mhm.
but to be with you, it's totally worth it. I am excited to learn more, and I have a feeling as soon as I get to the end of the book, what I might need to do is just turn around and go through it again to really help integrate these pieces. And Fred, I'm sorry that you don't get a designated holiday season there, because every single year I feel the darkness more. And I just, when it gets dark, I just want to go to bed. So not having as much sunshine makes it harder to do more work and be productive. So We'll see. We'll see. But if you need to come to Arizona, I got a guest room. And we still have sunshine. It's going to be 80 this weekend, apparently.
Very nice.
Steve, how are you feeling? And what would you like to get out of today?
Well, I'm gonna unmute. You're gonna mute, okay? And you can't mute. I'll mute you. No. Okay. I'm feeling pretty good. I just got back from that sale with my brother, and kind of as a double birthday because he had his birthday in December. I have mine in January. We're Irish twins, so we're the same age for that month and a half. And it was his birthday present for me to drive out there, and it was my birthday present. Oh no, it was my birthday. I drove out there for his birthday present, and he paid for my way down to San Diego once I got to Nevada, and we enjoyed some sailing. I thought we were going to Catalina Line, and what we were doing was there was a Catalina sailboat club who had what's called a raft up in the middle of a bay. And so a bunch of boats strapped together and we anchored out and floated out there in the middle of the bay. And it's Christmas lights in San Diego Bay. And so Coronado hotels lit up like a freaking like Disneyland um, and a bunch of other things. There are boats going by that are all trimmed up with Santa Clauses on them and multiple lights and everything. And everybody's in the Christmas spirit. I'm sorry to say, Fred, they're just hamming it up down there in San Diego. So um, I'm looking forward to that. And I too need to go back through this book. I might get a music theory guy to sit down and go through all these tritone things and these scales and all these circles, this octahedral circle of fifths, which I don't quite understand. So, but I'm very much enjoying it. I love the perspective. I love being widened up and ready to go. Okay, who has not yet gone? Manu, have you gone?
Yeah.
Richard hasn't.
Richard, you're black down there. You're blank. You got no video. I almost forgot you were here. Are you got a video and how are you, or an audio at least? How are you feeling and what do you anticipate for today?
I hope I'm on audio on that.
Yep.
You are on audio.
Yeah. Well, I'm feeling dark. I'm on the road, so I'm going to be off camera for a half hour or so. Then I'll come back on. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. Actually, yesterday was quite interesting. The Galileo Commission had a feature session with Nassim Harriman.
Oh, nice.
And it was a whole 2.5 hours that he went on like you wouldn't believe. And I didn't follow an awful lot of it, but what was really interesting, it was titled One Source, Many Names. And I sort of thought about one source, many manifestations, but really got into this discussion about energy and mass and very exciting. And there was about 180 people on the session from all over the world. And Lafert's name was mentioned and cosmometry by somebody on the session. And Bohm got mentioned quite a few times. A lot of the names that we've talked about. The one missing was Fuller. Anyway, so I'm feeling pretty good and I'm ready to learn more from our readings and our discussions. And I'll come on screen here in about 20 minutes or so. So back to you, Wayne. How are you feeling and what's your expectations?
I feel good this morning. I guess I'm the outlier here. I really like winter. I think it goes back to the farm. Winter was the only time I got to play on the farm. There was work to do when the sun was shining. It was warm, and so that was my playtime. And I love winter sports and sleigh riding and snowball fights and building snowmen. Everything winter. And I love the landscape too. I love the restfulness of winter. How the world at least the vegetation world, goes to sleep. And you've got these stark skeletons of the trees. The long shadows of winter, are cast across the snow from those skeletons. And winter in a non-snow climate, I think, would be a challenge for me. I would miss the snow in the winter. So even in Alaska, with very short days, 4-hour days, I loved winter because it was like sundown when the sun was up and all those pastels bouncing off all the ice. I was in Fairbanks one morning in January, I think it was, and it gets to be about 40 below there at night. And of course, there's a lot of moisture in Alaska, so the air is very humid. And that frost would flock everything, every telephone wire, every branch, every tree, everything. And when the sun came up, there were ice crystals in the air, just everywhere. So there's everywhere you look, it's twinkling with ice crystals, and I treasure those memories. That's good stuff to me. So I'm sorry you're cold, Fred, and you can come here and have Christmas with us if you'd like. You're welcome.
Thank you.
So we would welcome you in a heartbeat.
Thank you.
Anyway, as far as what my intention is for the call, I'd like to cover some more ground here and eventually get done with this book. Richard, every time you've mentioned whatever you just mentioned, what's it called? This society something?
Galileo Project.
Galileo Project. Richard, please tap me into that. You just blew me out of my seat with one source, many names. I've been teaching that for the last several years in reference to God, God, that energy source, God, that source. And that's only one name, of course, and people trip over that name. I don't care what you call it. I'd like to talk about that. I'd like to be unified in the existence of that and the power of that and the genesis that it brings about to all things. I've actually come to see the creation story in Christian scripture very differently. That people stumble over God as a creator, people who aren't Christian, and some of you are on the call, and that's fine. I have no judgment about that. But if there is a source from which all things emanate, that is pure energy, and all things are energy, I easily see that as an event that could be referred to as creation. And so I just don't have issues around the words relative to that kind of thing. I'm much more interested in the essence of what's going on there than I will ever be about a doctrine or a creed or the words, and especially authoritarianism around religion. I don't have any patience with that at all. I think that whatever that source is, we're all connected, and we don't need an intermediary. It's best we go direct. So, don't know where that came from this morning, but
let me just comment on that because what Nassim did to start off with, he did a lot of sort of preparation type of comments before he went into the details of his work. But he talked about the source from probably a dozen cultures over the centuries. And the names that were given, whether it was in India or in the Middle East or in Asia. And so it was really interesting for him to acknowledge these many names, if you want, that were part of his title. So for me, that's another example of always making known that there could be a whole bunch of different names for something that may be the same. Yeah.
Can you get us a link to that speech by Hermine?
Yeah, actually they record them and they send out they'll send out the recording in a couple of days. And so I think I can just forward that.
If you would, please, Richard, that would mean a lot to me, and I'd be interested in connecting with this group, whoever they are.
Me too, Richard.
Well, it's called the Galileo Commission, and they're primary theme right now is beyond what they call beyond materialistic science.
Metaphysics.
What's that?
Metaphysics.
Well, actually, for me, no, because now I'm saying that energy, the source, is fundamental and physical, if you want, is actually meta energy or meta source or meta whatever.
Well, you just turned it
But
inside
anyway,
out, Richard. You just turned it inside out because metaphysical means, yeah, I agree the source is meta because it is
yeah, I know,
non-physical.
but you see, metaphysical assumes that physical is fundamental.
Nah, I don't think so. Not in my mind. I'd be interested in what you're thinking there. I take the word meta to be beyond. In the Latin, I think it means beyond. So it's beyond physical, is outside of physical.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. But if the source is the beginning, then meta beyond the source is things like physical or mass or manifestations. Anyway, that's what I was getting out of it. But just wanted to comment on the fact that the acknowledgement of many different kinds of names, and I think that's where we get into trouble with different kinds of religions. They end up almost inferring, if not meaning that, but inferring that their God, their source, is the ultimate one.
Yeah. I'm sure I've mentioned this before on this call. Christy and I on our honeymoon were on a cruise ship, and there was an amateur comedian hour, and one of the comedians had a slogan for each state. And the slogan for Utah is "My Jesus is better than your Jesus." And it was just so hilariously true. Steve, I'm going to share my screen to Richard's point here. These are names I have collected for that source. I've got other names for God: Akash, Brahman, 0 point field, quantum field, unified field, ether, zero phase, non-being zero, zero starting point, universal field, Planck spherical unit, isotropic vector matrix, 0 point energy, energy vector matrix, the void, empty space, center point, eternal creative intelligence, vector equilibrium, mind of clear light, the infinite, the universal one, God, Elohim, Jehovah, Jesus Christ, Allah, the Great Spirit, Heavenly Father, Lord, Master, Body of Truth, Shiva, the One, the All, and that's the short list, guys. We've been very creative in our colloquial names for that. And yes, Richard, I think all too often we try to put a boundary around something that's boundless when we do that. Yes, Fred.
Well, the other thing is that we try to put it into a hierarchy instead of a synarchy.
I suppose. Don't know what a synarchy is, but Fred, your hand's up.
Yes, thank you. I would like to comment also on the
Please.
source because Lucy was very spiritual and becoming more and more spiritual as she was advancing toward her path. And she was working with people about her spirituality. And we were working together too and doing some meditation together, especially at the beginning when she was so scared. And one day after meditation, she was looking so at peace that I told her half jokingly and half seriously that she was becoming a Buddha. And she looked at me and said, no, 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 this is not what I want. I don't want to become a Buddha. Buddha is two concentric circles remote from the source. I want to rejoin the source. That's what she said.
Wow.
And I cannot say what the source is, but somehow I think there's a convergence in the concept, in the idea that we are discussing there. So I wanted to share that. I think, that's important to me, so I wanted to share it. And the second thing I wanted to share is I spent a lot of time in the in the 2000s in Siberia, in North Manchuria and in Siberia, buying lumber. And it's about the same latitude as Alaska.
Hmm.
So it gets pretty cold, but it's a dry cold. It's so dry that whenever your body gets near an object, there's a spark, a visible spark that's 1, 2, 3 inches long, because the air is
Yeah.
so dry that it
Yeah.
collects
Static.
static energy, static electricity.
Hmm.
So yes, different types of cold. And -40, which interestingly, -40 is about the same in Celsius and and
Oh,
Fahrenheit.
didn't know that.
-20 is the same, but -40 is about the same. At -30, you know you will survive. At -40, you know you can die. That was my experience with the cold.
And will soon if you're out in it.
Maybe yes. That's
Yeah, I have a friend, one of my mission companions, who grew up in Timmins, Ontario, Canada. And he said it sometimes got -70 there. And the kids in going to school um, in the dark and in the cold, they didn't go to school at that kind of temperature, of course, but even in the -30s and things, the children had ropes strung around town and they would hold on to the rope to find their way through the fog. I thought, there's no way I'm sending my kid out in that fog unaccompanied, rope or not. I'd be walking him to school, but and I'm not that kind of father. I'm very much, come on, you can do it. Do it on your own. Stand up here. But boy, not that one. The thought of them being lost in that cold fog would just drive me crazy.
yeah. And on top of that, it's uphill both ways.
It's what?
It's uphill both ways.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You heard that story too. Okay. Yes, Lee.
Lee's
Take yourself off mute, please, Lee. You're still on mute, Lee.
he's working on.
Steve's going to help her. There you go.
Thanks. I lived in New Hampshire and we had very cold mornings.
I'll bet.
And we had hills that we went through, and we were on farmland. We weren't in a city. And so in Merrimack, New Hampshire, the roads were steep down, and the bus would inevitably get stuck down at the bottom of this. And all of us would have to walk back up the hill. It was awful. And 90% of us would not go to school walking. We were 3 miles away from school, and that was a little too much at the horrible temperatures.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's tough stuff. All right. Well, we've had our weather report. Steve wants to say something.
Yeah, about these names. I loved your list, and there are more. I put some comments in.
Please add all you can. I collect them, so.
Good. Well, I threw some names in there, and one of the names that Harmeen is big on is Tetragrammaton.
Mm-hmm.
Tetragrammaton stands for Yahweh, YWYH, and so they're synonyms, the four letters of the unspeakable word. And to Jews, there are like 4 or 5 words that are not, let me see, it's right here at the bottom. Why so many names? These names aren't just labels, they reveal different aspects of God's character, power, and relationship with humanity, reflecting context from the creation to redemption. And it gives the source for that there. But Elohim, I think you had Elohim on there, didn't you?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because that's a big one in the Bible. When
Right.
Jesus is on the cross, he says, Elohim, why hast thou forsaken me? And in Genesis chapter 1, Elohim are the gods who create human beings. Let us create these humans, as you know, Wayne. But anyway, I stuck some more in there, and maybe you can add a couple to it. But Tetragrammaton is kind of exciting to me because it sounds very Buckminster Fullerish.
How do you spell Yahweh?
Yahweh, YHWH.
H.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no vowels in
This is
Hebrew.
Okay.
this is always for me an interesting question. How do you spell? And then the reference is a word that does not correspond to any alphabet any of us understand or knows or something like that. It happens to me all the time. How do you spell that in Chinese? Say, well, you don't know. You don't want to know. That's
I can
and
appreciate that, Fred, because there are sounds in Korea that you can't
yeah,
spell in any other language.
yeah, Korea. But China has a transcription into pinyin. That's the official transcription into Latin characters. But culturally, asking how to write down a word that is issued from a different culture with a different alphabet and all that, I find that quite challenging to answer. It's
Well,
always. I just wanted to say that. Yeah.
because it appears impossible, right?
Well, there's transcriptions, but then what does it mean in the end? And what can you do with it when somebody tells you it's YA something or whatever, however you write it, is just a transcription of the concept into your own into English or whatever language you're speaking at that moment. So I don't know. I don't know if it means something the way it's spelled.
Yeah. In Kabbalah, so for a long time, my husband, about 3, 4 years, my husband was deeply involved with Kabbalah. And so Hebrew has no vowels, and there is a numeric assignment to each of the letters. And so you end up getting digital roots and symmetries within spelling. So it very quickly starts to move in this direction between the linguistic as you get the numbers in there. At what we're understanding is that it starts to correspond in has a relationship to sound frequencies, and sound frequencies have a relationship to color. And so this whole idea of words being spells, end quote, um, and being a very large part of bringing matter into being. Words are sacred, and there is some different character coming out of Sanskrit and Hebrew, and each different language has some ways in which they adapt to that concept and exploit it. And I think that's one of the reasons in Scientology, which was the base for what Robert was using when he taught us, there is such an emphasis that L. Ron Hubbard said that all understanding stops at the first misunderstood word. So when you leave people out there with one misunderstood word or something where the datum isn't stable across, um, you can keep talking for an hour, but it will not do you any good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yes, Fred.
I'd like to
Because,
add, well,
because
go ahead, Fred.
Oh, sorry. Okay, go ahead. It's very short.
Oh, go ahead, please.
The corollary to that from Hubbard is that whenever there's confusion, going back and defining one term is enough to dissolve to
Yeah.
erase, to make the confusion disappear, to bring clarity to the things. So that's that's
Mhm.
to use Manu's vocabulary, that the dual of uh, of what Susan said. Stephen,
Yeah.
back to you.
Yep. I just wanted to add on the statements made by Susan with Kabbalah. Not only is Hebrew has numbers assigned, but each of the letters means something in terms of creation. So A alpha is the beginning, and the last letter is the ending, omega, and each and words in Hebrew are significant in that the word for man is exactly opposite of the word for woman. So so in English we'd say man, M-A-N, woman would be N-A-M. And there are words like that in Hebrew, so that when you're reading Hebrew, the the context of the letters of the word and the numeric value of the word create add to the metaphysical, if you want to say, meaning of the word in a profound way. And I want to also note here Richard's notations about meta. I think it's really profound to say that really from the colloquial point of view, meta means uh, beyond physical, metaphysical. But it really serves to reverse it that which is non-physical is the foundation, and therefore meta source would be material. And I think that's a really profound paradigm on the brain is to get rid of that word metaphysical and somehow put a context to whatever's being said because when I say metaphysical, I immediately the brain goes into the fact, well, physical's first, and this is beyond physical, and physical is reality. I just really think that's an important point. So there's my 2 cents on that, and I'm complete.
All right, well, I'm probably going to launch something here. And I don't know that we really want to get all the way into this. Maybe we can mark this down as one of the topics, Steve, to discuss metaphysical. But I stumbled on something you just said rather abruptly. I stumbled abruptly. I hit a wall. Meta, we should say meta source. Physical is beyond source. That tripped up my brain because in my understanding and my belief in my whatever where I am right now with my brain and all that I'm collecting this information with, there is nothing beyond source because source encompasses everything. So how can it be beyond source? And so that could be a little trigger for a conversation at some point. Back to Susan and Steve both. Let's look at the box on page 274 where we're going to start our reading. The circular cyclical characteristic of time and energy in motion in both electromagnetic and acoustical dynamics inform the manifestation of harmonic structures in space, always and only in consort with the golden ratio's coherence engendering heterodyning and damping attributes. I heard you guys say something about what's the language of the Jews?
Hebrew.
Hebrew. That said that same thing to me. So I saw a corollary between the electromagnetics and the acoustical and the language there.
Mm-hmm.
These everything means something. It's more precise than we might ever believe, and there is symbolism and there is imagery. It's all together. So that's very interesting to me as a language. Shall we start on the top of the page there and get rolling here? Anybody object? All good.
Nope.
Okay, the solar system is a cyclical tuned system of harmonic resonance and phi damping within the spherical container of the termination shock in the sun's heliosphere. The termination shock is a spherical bubble in the bottom illustration on the previous page. Okay. With the white dot being the sun. The spherical container provides the necessary reflectivity or feedback loop for an harmonically coherent standing wave pattern to form, just as is the case with the harmonic over structural sound, which, as Merrick says, is a physical interference pattern that occurs as a result of coherent interference in any round or spherical container. The sun's termination shock is the point at which the pressure, i.e., acoustical waves, form the solar wind plasma, traveling at supersonic speeds, interacts with the local interstellar medium, and slows to subsonic speeds. Interestingly, a common analogy for a termination shock is the turbulent ring around water as it hits, for example, a chopping block in a sink. Just as we saw in section 4. Within this area, we saw that there's phi double spiral coherent flow that's emanating from the vertical axis of the water, the point of impact of which would represent the sun in the solar model, and the double spiral on the chopping block representing the celestial equator or solar accretion disk of planets in orbit. This suggests that in both of these cases, the termination shock represents a phi-boundary condition, and within this circular spherical space is a harmonic coherent spatial and temporal geometry resulting from the same reflected pressure wave interference dynamics occurring at different scales. We can also see the same pattern in a sunflower. Oh my goodness, there's a lot there. So we're seeing these patterns in various different ways, and I didn't know, I mean, I've read this before, but I didn't lock into the fact that the sun's termination shock creates a spherical energy dynamic out there that holds our solar system in place, I suppose. The circular cyclical characteristic of time as energy and motion in both electromagnetic and acoustical dynamics informs the manifestation of harmonic structures in space, always and only in consort with the golden ratios coherent engendering heterodynamic dampening attributes. That's in the box up above. Atoms and molecules are literally musical instruments that transfer their harmonic information up the cosmic ladder of scale, becoming visible as the rainbow octave of light and audible as the musical octaves of sound, both of which are perceptible to us due to the very harmonic transfer informing our physiological design and proportions. Holy moly. As Merrick states, stop and ask yourself if it seems reasonable that all biological processes, bones, organs, muscles, nervous systems, blood, brain, and senses would grow coherent out of a carbon-12, which accounts for 98.86% of all forms of carbon according to the same balance of resonance and damping in a 12-step octave. Does it make sense that life would grow in conformance with the coherent geometry found in the standing wave of light, sound, the electromagnetism, gravity, the solar system, and everywhere else in the cosmos? If so, then you would probably conclude that harmonic science is the one and only unifying natural philosophy for all natural science, a complete and comprehensive system of thought capable of breaking open the head and replacing the countless artificial theories currently in vogue. Well, that was a statement, Mr. Merrick. Time will tell if Merrick's. Oops, Manu, I didn't see your hand. Let me finish this page, please. Time will tell if Merrick's proclamation is proven true when mainstream academia opens its mind to considering the premise of harmonic interference theory. Given how integrally compatible it is with the 12-fold octave and 5 proportional cosmometry of unified physics and our fractal holographic models of wholeness, it's clear that it deserves thorough consideration as a fundamental system of harmonic science that can inform all other natural sciences. To round out this picture, music as harmonic cosmometry will complete this part of our exploration with a simple introduction in the emerging field of cymatics and the art of science of making visible the flows of sound as they create remarkably beautiful patterns in water and in life. Electromagnetically seen, we may be living in a diluted plasma with natural coherent quantum resonance that can be approached by equations for standing waves as present in strings at 1 to 2 ratios, octaves at approximately 2 to 3 frequency ratios, circles of fifths according to an algorithmic of scalars. We propose that a natural quantum field makes use of invariably 12 typical basic quantum resonances. Correlations added by the author. Okay, Manu, please go ahead.
Oh, you're muted, sir.
Oh, are you talking? You're muted, Manu. We haven't heard anything yet.
Okay. Just a few things to say. And then going back to principles. First principle, energy is what it is. Energy is everywhere. Energy flows. Energy always flows. Energy flows to the line of least resistance. That's the first principle. The second principle is that it seems to me that the most difficult task of anybody wishing to create and to create the world is to set the boundary. If energy is always flowing, you need to set an efficient boundary. Once you set an efficient boundary, it resolves naturally standing waves. It resolves naturally discretionary standing waves, which again is summarized to a theorem of residues. And that to me describes everything that is said here. Everything else with those premises is a consequence. All right. I'm through.
Oh, hey, Joe.
Joe, are you here?
I'm here.
I don't know where you are. I'm not seeing you.
Um,
There you are. Gotcha. And Ann is not with us. Missed her this morning. Go ahead, Joe. How are you feeling and what are you up to as you join us here?
I'm feeling pretty good. And so, it's great to see everybody. So I'm excited to be here. And I think, Manu's comments just a moment ago about the boundary is something that is I've been thinking about a lot lately, on a number of different levels. Even how we draw boundaries with ideas of words and language and things along those lines. And understanding what those boundaries mean. So without going into the whole the really long story, but I was just talking to somebody about restating something in their own words. And the reason why that's important is not necessarily that they come up with their own language, but they rather that they think about the concepts that are underpinning the words that they're actually using. And then you can kind of think about the relationships in a much more healthy way. The words are related to concepts, which are related to boundaries, which then have relationships. So anyway, I already got everything I needed out of the day. No, I'm just joking. But I appreciate the time.
You're welcome.
Hey,
Thank
Steve,
you, Joe.
if you had an opportunity, and because I just don't know how to do this, if you can Google Walter Russell's periodic table,
Yeah.
I
I'm
think
more,
you'll be
I've got,
blown
I,
away by these diagrams that come up right away. I'm sorry, I wish I was technologically capable of putting it out there, but he has the periodic table set up in a sine wave, kind of to get to Manu's point, and shows the relationships by arranging the elements in a way that shows their quote periodicity. And then it allows you to see the relationships, I think, much better than Mendeley's periodic table that's, a rectangle. And when you listen to Nassim talk, I mean, one of the things, just to simplify a lot of what he says, was that he began to apply Buckminster Fuller's ideas about geometry that led him to vortex, that led it to near spherical terms. And it allows
Right.
us to have better approximation of how the energy is moving and what it's doing.
Do you guys see the octave on that chart?
Oh, yeah, there's multiple octaves on this chart.
Yeah, but there's one top to bottom that I'm seeing right off. Eight levels here.
Mm-hmm.
Fascinating.
And I know we've done some Walter Russell study in the past. There's one, if you look on the side, there's kind of like a dimensional cutout, kind of like the accretion disk that's over there on the right side of that diagram.
Mm-hmm.
So we wonder how energy becomes matter.
I think
That last page we read was sure beautiful in the how it slows down the sun's termination. What was it? What was the other word? Termination
Shock.
shock. Termination shock is part of slowing that down. Wow.
I had a very interesting experience here. I was muted and asking Susan, during the flow of talk, some question, and I don't know. It just didn't appear to me that. So I was trying to insist. Then I realized I was muted. But this is my question. Do you agree with me that the most important act of creation or doing any structuring is setting the boundary? And
I
boundary doesn't mean insulation.
Right.
Boundary means filter.
it also means shaping.
Yes. It means allowing certain things in and keeping others out.
And then you get circles of irrelevancy piling on that and some sort of, twisting relationship.
Yes. Because once you set the boundary and then you allow things in and some out, then you have stationary waves. Because energy always flows. Energy is going to try to flow and bounce on something, on a capacitance, on an impedance. Part of it is going to be refracted. The other part is going to be reflected.
And some of it will break through the goddamn boundary and it
Yeah,
will
that
be
is the
next
refracted
thing.
part. Yeah, the refracted part goes, it's part of information. The reflected part comes back in, is in, and
Yeah.
then create a stationary, because as it's traveling back in, is reflected, it's like a mirror traveling back in, it compresses the wave, part of the energy that was coming this way.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the first formation of forms.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me the term formation of forms, but you have the first stationary, what you call stationary waves. And then the peeling up and the more and more and more flow. It takes time then, because these are cycles that are going. That piles end up forming the manifestation that we see.
Right. And
Because
sometimes, though,
because
remember, Manu, the energy can, in certain circumstances, break through the boundary and
yes,
become something else. And so in this setup, I'm almost thinking about that, about going up an octave or down an octave, a fractal up, a fractal down. Because I love to think about, Bucky always has us thinking about directionality, the in, out, around, and between. Yeah.
but Susan is not can, it's always.
Mm-hmm.
It is always.
All
Take
at
the
the same
example
time.
of the ozone layer that we have. The ozone layer let pass a certain say bandwidth of the electromagnetic or light, whatever, that comes towards Earth. It let pass what we call the good one to sustain the stationary wave of life that is within it, and let go of some.
Mm-hmm.
And when we destroy the ozone zone as the layer as it is, we see the consequences. So the parameters of the boundary are pretty well set to sustain a certain type of life within. To me, it is fundamental. Boundary space, flow in, out, around.
Yeah, I want to respond to that, but Fred, you had your hand up first. Did you still like to say something? You're good?
Good, thank you.
Okay. Manu, as you were talking about boundaries, how many hundreds of times have we had this conversation? I heard something new. I saw something new. In terms of project management, in terms of building things, I just had the realization that it's all boundary setting. I'm setting boundaries in communications. I'm setting boundaries by design. I'm setting boundaries in time. I'm setting boundaries in materials. I'm setting boundaries in every measurement we take and how short we cut the board and where we place it on the platform. It's all boundaries. And it's by the authority and power of those boundaries that something actually comes into shape. And I see that now as a metaphor for what's going on in the invisible world as well. One of the things that really struck me a minute ago as you said that is that we're building this 1,700 square foot house right now. And one of the concerns about our construction processes in America, at least, is the waste in materials, the amount of refuse we create in building a structure. And by setting really tight boundaries and by working with contractors who do the same thing, because I am holding a boundary with them on cost, they don't bring a bunch of material to the site that ends up being wasted. They have to manage their material cost in order to make a profit doing what they're doing for us. We're going to build that 1,700 foot house with only one 40-yard dumpster of trash. And normally it would be 3 or 4 or 5 on a project that size of the dumpsters. And one of the things we did was to compact that trash to get to using only one. But that's interesting. It's only by setting that boundary that we can accomplish any of what we do in that project. I'd never realized that till now. So thank you for that. All right. You see no other hands. So we'll go on here. The word cymatic was coined by Hans Jenny, 1904 to 1972, after the Greek word for wave. Jenny and Ernst Chaladny, before him in the 18th century, was a pioneer in making visible the standing wave patterns of sound in a vibrating medium. Using a sound generating oscillator, Jenny studied how sand, powders, and liquid were affected by different frequencies, often using them to organize into coherent geometric patterns. While the field of cymatics has been emerging for a few decades, the science of it is still quite nascent. To analyze, catalog, and demonstrate repeatable patterns with rigorous scientific integrity requires a high degree of parameter control. There's your boundary. For such variables as sound source, frequency, amplitude, phase, timbre, size, depth, density of a container, density or viscosity of the vibrating medium, temperature, atmospheric pressure, etc. It is therefore not our purpose in this exploration to address the science of cymatics, but to see how the resulting patterns may correspond to the idea that acoustical pressure waves inform the same kind of geometric patterns we find in nature, to see if indeed the music is liquid architecture and architecture is frozen music, as Johann Wolfgang von Goethe said. While Hans Jenny used large surfaces to make cymatic patterns visible, today's technology is vastly more refined and small. Imagine a round cup of a mere half-inch in diameter and depth. Inside this cup is water, and underneath it is an audio speaker. Above the cup is a ring of LED lights. As sound passes through the water, it creates standing wave patterns, which is made a standing wave pattern, which is made on the surface of the water by the reflection of the LED lights. Mounted directly overhead is a high-resolution digital camera with a micro lens that captures images like this. Next page, magnifying the image to one small section reveals a remarkable degree of detail in the pattern of dynamic flow captured in one moment of time. Even in the still 2D image, we still see 3D layering of swirls and currents. Considering what a small portion of our half-inch cup this represents, the amount of pattern information is quite astonishing. Let's look at a few more examples and see how they correlate to natural phenomenon. Bear in mind that these simple snapshots of a moment in time is what otherwise a dynamic flow is in what's otherwise a dynamic flow of energy. The importance of this is realizing that all form in universe is doing exactly the same thing, manifesting standing wave patterns into temporary stable abstractions. Yeah, we call that matter, as Bohm would say, of physical matter, form and flow. Note that all of these cymatic images are original unedited images. Above image by Cadboy HK. Okay, that's just a credit. Here are a couple of cymatic patterns exhibiting pentagonal symmetry within the overall dynamic flow. Pentagonal symmetry is often found in flowers, and as we know, it's phi proportioned, so it's easy to see the Fibonacci damping in these patterns. We can even see the tendencies toward the dodecahedral symmetry in this pattern, which may in fact be underlying the three-dimensional waveforms. Next, we see hexagonal symmetry in this cymatic pattern, along with the overlay of the snowflake hexagonal crystalline symmetry. Note the same proportion of inner hexagon of cymatic and snowflake. Here we see a threefold symmetry, which is often found in tomatoes and other fruits and motorcycle spokes. The tomato is cut horizontally through the middle to reveal its threefold cross section. When a tomato is cut vertically through the middle, it reveals another of four fundamental patterns, the phi spiral in this case with two offsetting vortices. We can begin to see how phi damping and harmonic symmetry are simultaneously at play within the toroidal wholeness of a humble, if not somewhat soothing, grinning tomato. Did somebody say something? A grinning tomato. Toothy, in fact. In this next example, the image on the left is a still frame from a CYMATICS video. The specks you see are small flakes of glitter put into the water so as to make the flow patterns visible. When looking at this image, imagine the three glitter-filled sections convoluting, in torus flows. This is the energetic resonance in this flow pattern. In between them are spaces without glitter. These are the areas of damping between the resonance zones, which, as you can see, are defining the threefold geometry. Notice the similarity to the threefold lines and swirls in the watermelon. So this interplay of damping and the standing wave is the basis of all things. And I think it's centered to what Manu was saying about the boundary. The damping wave is the boundary, or forms the boundary. Another threefold cymatic symmetry bears resemblance to the face of the praying mantis. And then there's this one. Remember, it's just a snapshot of light reflected off the surface of water that's being vibrated by sound in a cup about a ½ inch in diameter. This image was not modified. Sometimes you just don't have to make this shit up. I think that's how you translate those symbols.
Yeah.
All right. Sure. It's a bit of a reach from sound waves to look like a face to an actual face, or is it? That's the inquiry here. Cymatics provides the potential means to make visible the cosmometry of standing wave patterns that harmonic resonance within the energetic cosmos are invisibly or implicitly, as per Bohm's implicate explicit order, using to inform said energetic cosmos. These very simple, even simplistic examples of cymatic correlated to natural forms are presented solely with the intention of being a catalyst for inspiring deeper inquiry. A true science of cymatics is warranted when we consider the possibility of the acoustical component of energy matter information is literally compressing of electromagnetic ether into form and flow at all scales as a direct consequence of quantum and cosmological gravitational tensegrity, doing so as a unified whole number harmonic system called music. Cosmometry, unified physics, music. One thing. Whoa, that's amazing. To wrap up this section of the book, I want to share one more cymatic example and how it relates to our friend, the tabla drum, that played a role a while back when we explored tuning the universe. In a simple center in the key of C, okay, that was from the former sentence. It is literally seen here as harmonic center of the drum head, around which other notes are orbiting. The root note C is located in the first orbital of the carbon 12 harmonic.
Are you on the right page, Wayne?
I think I'm not. Here we go. Tuning in nerves. In a simple yet profound way, this brings together all that has been said about the harmonic system of music and its correlation to physics and cosmometry. Well, we got hands up here. All right, top of the page. I don't know who went up first. You guys know?
Oh, no.
Joe,
Joe,
go
Joe is
ahead.
the first one on my list.
Oh.
Okay.
So I was just thinking, actually, I was trying to look back to the example of was it energy, matter, and information? And I think, yeah, it was on the previous page. And just how actually, if you think about things in those terms and how they actually serve as principles to understanding all the other concepts that we're looking at right now, is that you can break down the attributes under each one of these and understand all the the interrelationships that were just talked about within the geometric patterns that that was, and the idea of damping and all these concepts. And the reason I only bring that up is that it's kind of important is that even in coming up with things like logistical thinking, things fall within those categories. They fall within the idea there's energy involved, there's information that's essential, and matter is being shaped. So these are like fundamental principles that if you start to break down the attributes underneath them within each one of these patterns that he's talking about, then you're starting to be able to see what he's actually saying. And you can look at the words and look at the interrelationships between the words and the conceptual ideas. And then you can determine whether or not they're valid. But those are principles. It's damn near a framework. It's not a complete framework because something like space-time has to be in there as well. So that's kind of missing from the framework, I would say. And so in order to do a full analysis, but that's an important point because you can go back and map the whole chapter to that. Anyway, that was my only comment.
Yeah, I wonder if it is a framework, if looked at energetically. Maybe not quite because of the flux physically, but how about energetically? Is there an energetic framework there?
Oh yeah. I mean, there's absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, and you can definitely almost look at. It gets a little difficult because you can look at information as energy. And so that's one of those things that but I found that it's important to distinguish between those two.
Yeah.
And so from that perspective, I think it's really important to because there is the value, the validity of the information is actually essential. So knowing what actually constitutes information in and of itself makes it a separate category. And that's why I like the framework, the way he set it up.
Thank you. Manu.
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I wanted to tell a tale and then explain in principle. Does anybody know about the tale of Alexander's horse? Alexander the Great.
I couldn't tell. I probably heard it, but it sounds familiar. But
Okay, Alexander has this horse that could never be mounted by anybody. Everybody was scared of the horse. And only thing that Alexander did, because the horse was scared of his shadow, Alexander set the horse towards the sun in such a way that the horse never saw its shadow. And it did marvelous things. That's my tale. I realized I didn't succeed very well in telling you because nobody smiles. But anyway, that's it.
I'm smart.
I
wonder how far you can go on a horse when you can only go one direction.
Okay. Now,
If you conquer the entire
okay,
world, you can keep
Right.
going.
let's take the
That's-
tomato first. Let's take the tomato first. He said he gave the experiment of cutting the tomato horizontally. I guess, you know, the point part of a tomato is on the top, and then the vaginal part of it is at the bottom. And then you say you cut it horizontally. You have a configuration. And then you cut it vertically, you have another configuration. What is cutting?
Derivative.
But what is it? It's shedding light on. It has to do with shadow. It's no more, that inside is no more in the shadow. You shed light on it. But now, when you shed light on it, light has a direction. Because it's a projection, it is projected onto a surface and it gives a view. It is a view. And how that has to do, it's also derivation, as you say, is unfolding. To derivate is to unfold. Now, let's come back to the crux of what I wanted to say here. Is the dampening. We got to realize that even the boundary is subject to duality. The dampening phase of the boundary is that allow accumulation, that is energy in accumulating, is the structural part of the boundary, is the phi part of a boundary. There is always a pi part of a boundary that reflects back into space, into the cosmos. So those were the two things that I wanted to say here. It always comes to the story. Derivation is a shadow story. Where do you shed light? And it has to come with focus. And it has to come with dividing in order to understand the whole. To divide, to multiply. And remember what Kelly used to say, multiplying is symbol. The symbol multiply, the focus divides. The symbol multiply, the focus divide. And it's very, very important to understand that dampening effect, that you can only have a harmony when you have a boundary, and that you have a boundary that functions effectively in dampening. So the dampening effect of the boundary should be in a good relationship with its convex part to allow within what is inside to reflect, make form, make stationary wave of or how do you call it? How do you, this surface that is here is very nice. How do you call those? I'm talking about what we are seeing now. Makes it in such a way that it presents that beauty of a form to the appreciation of the eye. And I'll conclude in saying this is paradoxical. Unselfishness is selfish first. Unselfishness is selfish first.
Yeah.
It's a paradox.
How can you un something that doesn't exist? That makes sense.
It is that there is a law of supply in the world. There's always a huge reservoir there that is unknown, that is flowing into our manifest for us to appreciate. And if we give out, is in expectation of more, of profit. So unselfishness is selfish. Because your reward is going to be by that. That is where you directed what you gave out. It's counterintuitive but is actual fact something that is very, very natural. I'm true.
Hey, thank you. Joe, I think your hand was up first. Go ahead, and then Richard.
Yeah, I think we know what Manu was just talking about there was I mean, the idea of a distinction is, it's critical to all thought, even if you go back to things like in terms of, and the idea of let there be light when he was talking about the shadow. And I mean, when you're talking about distinction between what is light and what is darkness. And now, there's a lot of associations that can go along with that, but then you could start to say, well, that means that the basis is good or bad or whatever. But it's it's that first division that allows you to be able to tell and make a distinction between what one thing is and the other. Now, really quickly, you said symbols were for multiplying, and then what was for dividing again?
Focus.
Focus. So you bring something into focus, and that's, yeah. So you bring in something to focus, you're creating a division. And so if I name what a color is, if I have 10 names of what a color is, I have a group of symbols that I put together as a set of words, and they can be put together in different combinations. But then, and that labels something that then allows me to distinguish between the different colors. So then I'm dividing based off of that. So the symbols allow you to multiply, because you could have now 17 colors if you wish. But the division, you're able to make distinctions based off of the division, so that the focus, but that changes what you focus on. So then now you're focusing on the color pink and red, as opposed to the color red and blue only. So that ability, and the reason why this is all important is something I put in the chat a little bit earlier. This is the power of words and the different combinations thereof. If you have different combinations of symbols, and then those symbols actually then align to some degree of reality, then that's where this is actually hugely important, because now words, it shows you that the geometry of thought and how words, and thinking about words, how much of an impact that they can have on reality. And then you can start to think about that in terms of when people are sometimes dismissive of things like large language models. It's the combination of things that the models can come up with that will be able to create meaning. And that is dangerous, as well as could be good too.
But Joe, isn't free choice actually the combination of everything? Would you have, if
Right,
there was a choices, that could be considered dangerous, but
well, it's either or. I mean, so that's the idea then. What makes something good or bad to begin with? So
division,
what's that?
division,
Yeah, it gets back to the point of
duality.
division. Yeah, division, exactly. So and yeah, anyway, that's the whole.
All right, thank you. No, it's valuable. Thank you. Richard, thanks for your patience. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to something that Manu said that I think perhaps opens up room for some more dialogue. He talked about dividing is necessary to understand the whole. And to me, that sort of invites the further dialogue about whether or not adding the knowledge of what you have divided into equals the whole, which seems to be in opposition to the notion of the whole is always more than the sum of its parts or the sum of its divisions. So I just think that saying it the way he did it suggests there's room for more dialogue about this idea of the whole is the sum of the parts, or the whole is the more than the sum of the parts.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
just to
Go ahead.
reinforce that, I'm going to insert here just this goes back to the idea of metaphysical, which comes first and how the term metaphysical has has the assumed reality that matter is the source. It's colloquially understood that way. I'll just throw that's the same thing. Richard just reinforced that for me. Thank you for letting me jump in. Go ahead.
Um, yeah, but the whole idea of unity is plural at minimum too is actually really important here. The idea of self and other, and then kind of understanding the unity between that as opposed to looking at it as a division. So is like kind of just breaking something up into parts and not necessarily seeing the collective whole. So that there is a distinction to be made between those. There is no self without other. So the important of division in that instance is that you understand the relationships between the two parts, and the relationships between the two parts create a whole that's greater than the sum. That rather than looking at it as breaking down into parts and not seeing the relationships between things, what it highlights is the importance of relationships, not necessarily the division itself.
Yeah, I think personally, I've come to believe that the Christian story of the creation is really a scientific story. It's a story about how
Very
it
much so.
happened scientifically, and go clear back to the Big Bang if you want to. But it's a symbolic description of that in a story form, in human terms, and so I don't see the need for an argument about the two, science or religion, if we don't get too constrictive in either one. All right.
I agree. I agree with that.
Continuing on 282, and we've got, yeah, we might have a chance to finish this section, guys, which would be a great part to jump off next week. To the right of the somatic is a somatic pattern with eightfold symmetry, which can overlay onto the head of the tabla drum. The straps that put tension into the head are essentially in pairs, since two straps cross each of the 8 tuning blocks, the brown wooden cylinders, so that so this somatic may offer a fairly good representation of the tensegrity pattern within the drum head. In section 5, we talked about the tuning the tabla using the hammer to increase or decrease the tension around the rim of the drum head to balance out the overall tension. Doing so ultimately arrives at a nice sounding resonant tone with the drum when the drum is struck with a finger. Having done this tuning exercise many times, I've come to realize that there's the most interesting correlation with Richard Merrick, to what Richard Merrick has brought to light in harmonic interference theory. In the quote near the end of the previous chapter, Merrick refers to carbon-12, which is the most common form of atomic carbon, about 99%. The goatskin drumhead, for example, would be primarily made of these carbon atoms. Carbon-12 is also used as a standard reference for calculating the atomic mass of all other elements, with 6 protons and 6 neutrons in its nucleus and 6 electrons. Merrick proposes that the atomic structure of carbon-12 can be correlated to the harmonic dynamics of music, illustrating the concept in this diagram. Chronic dual rings of archetype for carbon-12. C equals 6 neutrons plus 6 protons plus 6 electrons. Here we can see that harmonic center D, the supertonic ninth, is located in the nucleus with the other 6 notes associated with the dynamic oscillations of the 6 electrons. 2 in the first orbital correlated with the first and third notes, C, E, the root and major third, and 4 in the second orbital correlated with the other 4 notes. Across the middle is the tritone axis BF, which shifts from an excited state to a stable state through the tritone function. Amen. As we saw earlier, the arrows show it here. As Merrick says, it is a reasonable consideration that biological processes that form organs, tissues, bones, goat skins would grow coherently out of carbon-12 according to the same balance of resonance and damping in a 12-step octave. Well, if this is any evidence of being so, the harmonic resonance of a tabla drumhead exhibits a close match to this carbon-12 harmonic model. The image to the right shows an overlay of the carbon harmonic model on the drum. When tuning a tabla drum, one does not tune to the open note in the middle of the drum, but rather is tuned to a harmonic overtone that rings out when the open head is slightly damped with one finger, while another taps it between the middle and rim. It is this overtone that is the note that determines the key the drum is tuned to. So, for example, when tuning to the drum to C, the drumhead would have this arrangement of tones. So you don't tone it directly in the middle. You have to go around the outside and balance all those to get the tone you're looking for. In the middle of the drumhead is D, the supertonic ninth, which rings out when the drum is struck open without dampening. Between the middle and the rim is C, the root note, the key being tuned to, which rings out when the head is slightly damped while striking it. Striking the drum toward the very outer rim while slightly damping will produce another overtone. This is the G, fifth note in the key of C. Comparing these tones to the carbon-12 harmonic model, we can see that they match their proportions relative to the center and rim. The note D in the middle, the open tone, is the harmonic center in the key of C. It is literally seen as the harmonic center of a drumhead around which the other notes are orbiting. The root C is located in the first orbital of the 12 harmonic model, and G is the second orbital. So Merrick's chromatic dual ring model finds an audible correspondence in the tonal relationships of the tabla drum. And given that a drumhead is a physical example of a tensegrity field, such as found in atoms, molecules, organs, tissues, solar systems, galaxies, it just well may be ringing out the actual music of the sphere's harmonic structure. Again, there is much to be researched in all of this, yet there is compelling observational evidence to suggest that it is a worthy and viable pursuit. Music as a system of harmonic relationships in the dynamics of oscillating energetic structures may well inform the physics of tomorrow in academic and research institutions, readily made visible through cosmic geometry correlations. For now, though, it's time to tune in to that which makes everything we're exploring even possible, to explore consciousness and the human experience. In other words, it's time to face the music. I like this guy's humor. Rumi, don't worry about saving these songs. And if one of our instruments breaks, it doesn't matter. We have fallen into the place where everything is music. Manu, your hand is up. Go ahead and share, and then go into your wrap up, if you will. Tell us how you feel and what your takeaway is today.
I just wanted to share.
Richard, you do the same thing, okay?
Do you hear me?
Mhm.
We can hear you.
Okay.
And then
Now I'm going.
pass to Richard next. So his thought is cohesive as part of what we just finished, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
I would like Steve to share something first. One of the things that was shown in the last, I think the penultimate page that you read, Wayne.
Okay, Steve wants to see the illustrations.
Fred was sharing
off camera here. Sorry.
The penultimate page. Yeah. The page on top, 283. Okay. Yes, any of those pages. Do you see like me?
No.
No, let me just say, a cross of St. Andrews.
What?
And an equator on it. Look at those great circles. You have 3 great circles there. You see them?
I guess.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
in between the D and the E. There's a circle
Yeah.
there.
You have a cross of St. Andrews. I don't know if you know what you call the cross of St. Andrews. Instead of being this is this.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have an equator. Now, the cross of St. Andrew is a tetrahedron, is a hole. The equator is a slice. And it has symbolism. You needed Jesus to carry the cross. That's the first. The second one is the number 12. Do you remember a few weeks back? I don't know if it was in the weekend on here, that if you took on a plane a circle and then you fit in a pentagon and an hexagon, the least common divider was 12.
Right.
12 degrees. Now you can fill the whole sphere with 12 times 12, 144 quanta. We saw it. 12 by 12, 144. Secondly, carbon 12. The 12 of that carbon means something significant. So the tuning of ourselves into the cosmic music is something that we have to do in order to appreciate that music. So your freedom is into your hands. If you want to go haphazardly in any way without understanding the cosmic laws, that's your problem. But if you really want to play your part in the choreography of the cosmic orchestra, you better understand those things in a simple way. That's my major takeaway. The 12 is important. Carbon 12 is important. And then the fact that that 12 is the least common denominator of any division. And we knew that putting the pentagon and the hexagon fill the space. Remember that? It fills the space. In other words, it fills everything that is under the fire, under the dampener. It fills it. If it fills the space, its number is actually 20 faces, filling the whole space. You count this thing, you're going to get to 20. It's 10, but because everything is 2, is 20 of these kings. So, to me, that is a very, very, I mean, without being a musician, without having the dexterity of Steve or the ability of Wayne or whatever of Anne, and whoever had a musical culture, you might understand what Lafayette is saying. Him being a specialist of music and somebody that can talk both language. And it's based on the principle. If you understand the principle, you can get a little bit of the crumbs or what messages that is wanting to transmit. And I'm very appreciative of that. That's my best thing. That's my takeaway. And otherwise, I'm very appreciative of our meeting here. I think that today was very rich. And I hope you concur with me. Fred, you didn't talk much today. How do you feel? What do you,
Richard.
pardon?
Go to Richard.
Okay, should I pass it to Richard first? Richard, how do you feel? What do you take away?
I'm feeling energetic, and the big takeaway for me, or at least the big focus right now, and then the takeaway is to see the word tensegrity jump up, um, and to see tensegrity in what I think it's these readings have been referring to, and that has to do with the different kinds of tensegrity. The harmonic tensegrity that we were just talking about now sort of manifests into music. There could be physical tensegrity. There can be other forms of tensegrity. Uh, I have, in my background and my work, um, I have picked up on the idea of social tensegrity, and whether the music of life, social life, is tensegral, and so often when you're looking at tensegrity, we tend to think of it in from the compression sort of components and not the tensional components, or the entities and not the relationships. And as Joe was referring to a little earlier, that in understanding the whole, the division into parts often doesn't take into account the relationship between those parts. And it's the relationship that, in fact, helps us understand that the whole is more than the sum of its parts. In other words, the whole is more than just the parts. It has to do with the tension between the parts as well. So um, I'm really interested in this whole. I think Fuller talked about the idea of, well, he talked about synergy being a word that very few people understand, and that he wanted to bring synergy, if you want, into life, into greater understanding. And I guess that's where I'm at now with the whole concept of tensegrity. Very few people understand what tensegrity means. And I think it needs to be um, uh, involved in greater dialogue. It needs to be more of a common kind of way of trying to understand a bunch of other sort of um, what's manifestations, I guess. So you've got, I'm talking about social tensegrity. I think we talked today a lot about harmonic tensegrity, and there are other tensegrities. So that's my big takeaway is the importance of tensegrity and bringing it more into life to understand that the whole is more than the sum of its parts. So that's my big takeaway. Back to you, Wayne.
Go to someone else. Richard, please.
Oh, okay. I
Pass it
thought
on
you
to
were
someone else.
guiding it.
Thank you.
So I'll go to Fred. And how are you feeling? What's your takeaway, Fred?
Thank you, Richard. I'm feeling very grateful for the invitations to stay at Wayne's for Christmas or stay at Susan in her guest room and all that. And this is really something that's important to me. And that was important to Kelly too, that we can travel around the world, and most times we do not need to stay in a hotel or Airbnb. We can stay with people that we know, even if it's a bit of straw in the in the barn. It's fine with me. I like that. It's really makes me warm inside to know that I can go nearly anywhere in the world, and there will be a place for me to stay. That's really important to me, and that's wonderful. So I'm very grateful for that. Um, I'm going to paraphrase Manu. I was muted, and I was asking questions to Susan to paraphrase Manu, and then I didn't have to unmute because she answered my questions. So that's what I thought Manu was going to say when he said I was muted. So that's why I had my hand up and then I put it down because it was out of sync to say that at that moment. Then we talk about Galileo Commission, Galileo Group, Galileo this. And I'm very sensitive to that because everybody needs a hero, and Galileo is my hero. So everything related to Galileo is also straight to my heart. And thank you, Richard, for explaining relationships, for reminding us that relationships are what explain that the whole is more than the sum of its parts. I think that's very important. And last thing I wanted to say, I've got a lot of takeaway today. We talked about the source, and I shared a little bit about how Lucy was saying that, and she didn't want to be a Buddha, and she wanted to go back to the source, and that was very important to her. And one day, as she was saying that, I told her, so is a drop is returning to the ocean, knowing that we are all connected, and that the fact that was going back is what was like returning to the whole, returning to the source. And then she looked at me and she smiled a little bit. And I saw she agreed with me, but she had something to say, so I just stayed quiet and listened to her. And she said, "The ocean is in the drop." That's what she said. So that's uh, that's my takeaway. The ocean is in the drop. So Susan, how are you feeling today? And what is your takeaway?
I am thinking that I'd like to understand the principles of music better. However, I have an appreciation, and what really came through today is that this world that we're sensing is cymatics. And it's not only the individual energies, but the synergy and the tensegrity between those that we're watching dance around us. And so even when I cannot see all of the elements that are coming together in this processional play, I can appreciate things like rhythm and harmony and melody and light. And I am just so grateful for having wonderful friends that can help me appreciate that on a greater depth. Joe, how are you feeling and what are you taking away?
I'm sharing that same gratitude. And there are a lot of things that I'm finding to be really beneficial. I mean, even just from going through the book as a whole, and kind of geometric thinking. So, I mean, just as a general statement in general, I think that this has really been a helpful endeavor, especially as things become a little bit more clear. I really appreciated what actually Fred had put in the chat when he wrote that if names be not correct, language is not in accordance with the truth of things. If language be not in accordance with the truth of things, affairs cannot be carried on to success, and even the idea of defining what success is. But we also talked about the idea of the different combination of words and things and characters that can be then put together. And so, and ideas and concepts that underpin them. And the reason this is all important is because it relates to remaining open and not static. And that it's a dynamic system of a living word, and that words there's contextual nature to it, and there are different combinations of things that can lead to success, and that very much leads to geometric type of thinking. So by understanding and what I talked about a little bit earlier, that words are essentially like high dimensional blocks that can be used for modeling, then that is a way of kind of validating the importance of geometric thinking, and how these concepts can be they're contextual, and that there's an infinite number of combinations within that. So it relates to Bucky's ideas of universe and experience as well. So from that, there's a lot to take away from the day. And if you're, kind of really break this down in a way that when we're talking about the relationships between characters and things along those lines, and how our words actually create meaning, or define success, as what I just read from Fred. When we kind of think about that, then we can start to have a conversation of the value of what large language models actually are capable of doing in a very practical sense. And how, again, these different combinations of things, and thinking of things of how different models or different different relationships between words and concepts, that creates how we can model our world. Anyway, that's a little too philosophical even for me, but who's next? Lee, how are you feeling? What are you taking away from today?
Can you unmute? I did it.
Yes. I feel wonderful because I've learned an awful lot today and have been able to associate my music background, my art background, to Wayne's and my construction background. 49 years of construction, and putting a simple board on a sawhorse and cutting it to the degree that I need to build anything in this building, is equal to the music that my mother used to play on 2 grand pianos. Just is amazing. I have never thought of the association of these two entities that have been in my life that have made me what I am. I am excited to find out more. And knowing this book, I don't want it to end. I'm just beginning in it. Steve, what have you, how are you feeling, and what have you found in today's conversations?
Okay. Well, I've been struck by several things. One, I'm struck with this how slow my computer is. It's frustrating. I put Windows 11 in, and
Can you mute Lee, please?
yeah, what a big regret. And so, but I loved a couple of things we talked about here. One of them is from Joe, I think. Energy is information, information is energy. I'm sure we've talked about that before, but somehow a light went on for me. Um, Heat is information. Um, all of these climatic drawings. You guys, I found just interestingly, the weeks before this day, I found some videos on this kymatics. If you get on YouTube and you plug in kymatics, you're going to see some amazing stuff because these pictures that we've seen on page 278, 279, etc., 280, 281, they literally are freeze frames of something that is happening so fast that that in fact the two-dimensional frozen frame uh, hides, while it exposes something, it hides the whole. Um, we've talked before, I think this book talked about before about fluid dynamics. Um, and I felt then at the time that, I think the point was that in school we study architecture instead of fluids. We study polygons instead of fluid dynamics. And I think that uh, I was robbed. If I get reincarnated, I want to come back into a universe where when I go to school, I learn about fluid dynamics, or I'll just begin that study now for the next 35 years. So we'll just see what that involves. But I love this energy is information, information is energy. I kind of resonated with focus. I looked at closely this idea of focus is dividing. And I loved Richard's comment about self and other, or Joe's comment, I think, about self and other. In regard to that, there's got to be a better word than focus, is dividing. Because if I'm focusing properly, I'm not just dividing, I'm seeing the parts as a whole. Um, that was interesting to me. Also interesting to me in this book was when I sit and meditate for an hour, a silent meditation, without avoiding, and in my sitting, avoiding any solidification whatsoever. No labels, no static pictures, just allow the flow to occur. That brings a focus of the whole. And as soon as I say a word, I start dividing things. I really liked Fred's Confucius quote here uh, about words. I thought that was pretty good. Also, I noted that in the book here, for some reason, and I'm not clear when Lefert talks about carbon 12, he refers to goat skin drum heads. And all of a sudden, I flashed on to a peyote ceremony. They use a goat skin drum head that's attached to the gourd or to the kettle um, with rocks. They take pebbles or rocks and they put it in the goat skin, and then they tie a rope or a thread or buffalo hide or maybe goat tendons, and they wrap them around uh, the rock, so the rock becomes like a button, and it's squished down. And I was looking through AI and found something, and then it went away. Tried to find it again, but it's very true. Different animal heads were used in their drums because of the different vibration was a different kind of medicine. That was profound for me. I was aware of that because of the medicine wheel. I don't know if you guys have seen a medicine wheel, um, but there are, it depends on the tradition that you that one is studying or one is relating to, but there's like somewhere like 32 stones in a medicine wheel. And so when they put these rocks around the drum head, that's in kind of a symbology of the medicine wheel. And then each of those positions have animal relatives to it. Um, and I'm blown away because of this whole um, harmonic idea that the planets have vibrational frequencies, and I'm looking at the octave chart that Fred showed today, and just noticing this idea of this spiraling energy information flow, um, and um, and how I wish I knew more about it. Um, and I'm learning more about it, and I'm very grateful for that. And I'm grateful for all of your sharing. And I'm going to throw up a medicine wheel here. Just I found it. It's coming up. I'm just going to show you because I think the rocks and the fact that these rocks are put around the. I'm going to share my screen because I can't see the thing. And then I'm going to find that medicine wheel is there. Okay, so hopefully, oh wait, there it is. Now it'll be sharing. And it's there it is. So the buffalo is at the top, the coyote is at the bottom.
I'm not
Sometimes,
seeing. Oh, there we go. Thank you.
yeah. Um, in some cultures, the wolf is here. In most cultures, the wolf is on the bottom. The bear is always in the west. The eagle is usually always in the right. I noticed that in my AI search, they talked about kangaroo skin. So I'm sure that the Australians have their own way of addressing the vibrational aspects of these animals, and it would be really interesting to compare this medicine wheel chart to the carbon 12 idea.
What's in the center, Steve?
In the center is the creator.
Oh, thank you.
The creator's in the center, or the
Right.
heart. It's the
Correlate
heart.
that to a rock. It's like,
It's
okay,
what?
thanks. I
What's
tried to
that?
correlate that title with a rock. I couldn't find a rock of that name. Go ahead.
Yeah. So like, and sometimes in some Native American wills, they stack three rocks on top of this creator. So the bottom is the down direction. The middle rock is the creator or the heart or the heartstone, and then the top rock is the above direction. So it by stacking three rocks in the center of this medicine wheel, you create a sphere is created rather than just a flat two-dimensional wheel. Um, and now all of a sudden, when I go to 3D, I think, wow, where are all the animals on that 3D thing? And I'm now looking at, um, of course, because of the chiral action of the torus, there is that disk, that planetary disk. In fact, there was a word for that today that came up in the deal. Oh yeah, it was the shock, the termination shock. I'm going to study more about the termination shock on page 274 because that has everything to do with the planetary disk and the formation of the universe. So, anyway, lots of takeaways today, besides my frustration with my slow computer. I've been talking about buying Windows 10 on a disk and shoving it back on my machine, seeing if that helps. I've also been talking about buying a new machine, so we'll see about that too. So, I'm excited for today. I love this idea of 1 to 2, 1:2. The 1-2 ratio is the octave, and the 2-3 ratio are the circle of fifths. So there's just lots of ponder here, and I've been thrilled with the day. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for sharing and your input. Wayne, how are you feeling? What are your takeaways today? I left you 2 minutes, my man, so go for
Oh, that's fine. I'm feeling
it.
very complete about this whole music section. We just finished the section on music. Y'all ought to be thrilled about that. It's been probably our most challenging one. But it's brought about a wholeness of thought for me. So I'm feeling climactic about cymatics and how this beautiful perception that's come to me through our study of these overlays of sound and light and electromagnetics and everything else going on, and right down to the cymatics today, where we can see it in the patterning of water and other materials. There's something really beautiful going on within and around us, and of which we're a part. And that's one of the things I appreciate most about this book is Lefert has succeeded for me in helping bring that together. That was my first experience of the book when I was in Colorado, was having it pull together so many different disciplines and thoughts and philosophies into one. And I just feel expansive about that. Fred, I love this quote you left about if names are not correct language. That's such a beautiful. Is that your quote, Fred? Is that someone else?
It's Confucius. He gives it
That's
credit.
attributed to Confucius.
Okay. I'm going to put Confucius and Fred.
There you go.
It's well known. You cannot take it and say it's yours.
Yeah. Anyway, I really love that. It's I think it's true about life. I think it's true about organizations. I think it's true about families. We can really bless ourselves by becoming clear in our language and clean in our language and crisp and creative, such that we understand that the power of our voice and the power of our words and what they convey, and how important it is to be on the same page in what a word means. We go through life fighting wars over our insistence that our word's the best word to describe something, and not understanding that this just it isn't how it is. I mean, while I was on this call, I was asking my wife to send a Venmo to a subcontractor, and it's probably the first time she's seen she has our Venmo accounts. First time she's probably seen a QR code on those. So we were going back and forth for a minute about, how come she didn't have enough information, and I realized I hadn't downloaded the image of the QR code, so she had no information. And I was asking her to send this, and there's that gap, right? There's that gap in the communication that we're both thinking something different. She thought I was sending her on a goose chase, and I thought it was pretty simple. So we got it resolved when I realized what my shortfall was. So there's as we finish this chapter, this is the bringing it together chapter for me. This is the center structure on which much of Lefert's work is brought to bear. Steve, about medicine wheels being the center structure of the universe in the Native American culture. I had the great opportunity a few years ago of building a medicine wheel with Ramona Sierra guiding that. If you know who she is, she's a Native American shaman from Salt Lake here. And she had about 100 of us that she coached for a couple of days while we built this medicine wheel down in Spring City. And I cannot comprehend yet or deny what I experienced when we were there, because for one thing, almost the whole time we were building it, there was a flock of eagles circling us. I've been in Sanpete County for 40 years. I've never seen eagles down there. I've seen one golden eagle up on top of the mountain, but they were circling the whole time. And just things happening in nature that were uncanny. When we finished it and we were finished with our whole ceremony, I was looking up and there was a blue sky, and I was thinking about the white buffalo that you had at the top of that medicine wheel. And lo and behold, here comes a cloud floating across the sky. It was a perfectly formed white buffalo, although upside down. How does that happen? I don't know. I have no clue, but it was a marvelous experience. The purpose of that medicine wheel was to ostensibly free the spiritual trauma that had been experienced in that area for many, many years because of an incident that took place when the pioneers came to Utah and invited a tribe of Native Americans to a feast on false pretenses and slaughtered them when they came into the camp. And there was a lot of folklore that these spirits were trapped there, that those Native Americans were not able to go on with their journey. And so our purpose was to be a conduit through which that could happen. Guys, this is odd. I wouldn't tell a lot of people this, but at the moment that we brought that to that point in the ceremony, I can only say that I felt a rush of something. It wasn't wind, but it could have been described as wind, of energy that came through that circle and cycled up. And there was a hole in the cloud above us. It was like a tornado hole in that cloud above us where those eagles were flying. and something happened there. I can't describe what. Uh, Understand there's a part of me that screams, don't tell this story. It's probably just your imagination, right? um, but it was real for me. It's what I experienced, and I can't explain it. Don't have to. So there's a lot going on that I can't see, I can't perceive, I can't comprehend. Is bigger than I am, and in one element, one aspect, and maybe I get to be a part of that, and I am actually as big as that in the other. So that's my takeaway from this whole section. I'm wrapping up for the whole section, not just for today. Thank you for being part of that birthing, and we set a record today. I think in two ways. We covered 15 pages, which is probably a record in the book. Not that that matters much, but I think we covered those pages and had a rich conversation around it as well, which is has kind of been the tension around this project. So we're moving on. The way I'm counting the pages now, we've got about 6 months left, and we might be able to wrap this up and move on. So, but I'm with Lee. We'll take it in stride and read it as fast as we read it. Thanks to all of you. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Happy Hanukkah. All of the above. Celebrate, celebrate, celebrate. Fred?
Are we having, thank you, Wayne. Are we having
Oh, it will be
group discussion next week?
It's Christmas Eve, right? We said the next 2 weeks we wouldn't. Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, I think we said we wouldn't. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So not
Okay,
for
so when is the next one? January 8th, 8, 10 something?
3 weeks from today. It would be the 7th, I believe.
Yep. 7th, 8th.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. And for Sunday, it's going to be Saturday, Sunday is going to be the same. Uh, 11.
Yeah. Same hiatus.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
Did we decide?
Do we have no? We have a Sunday group this weekend,
Yeah, we'll discuss it
so we
this
can
weekend.
so we
Yeah,
can
let's
discuss that
it this
later.
weekend, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Sorry. Thank you,
But
Wayne.
one
I
thing
was
I
having
learned-
the experience again. Talking to myself was good.
yeah. Hey, Fred, just one thing I want to share. When I was in Colorado, I had a roommate from Russia. He's a Russian professor, brilliant man, good man. Ridiculous why the government sent him there. But anyway, we had nothing at Christmas time, right? It was a prison. We had nothing. And there was a Native American guy who ran the laundry. And I got with Gordy and traded some food to him to make Christmas stockings for my roommates. And they were just little red Christmas stockings with some white towel sewn around them. And I bought some things and put in those. But then I had another Native American who was an artist draw their names on their childhood names. Like I had one roommate named John, and he was a kind of redhead. His mother called him Rusty as a kid. And then Oleg, I can't remember what his childhood name was, but I in a coy way got that out of him and had that put on his. Those guys were like little kids on Christmas morning. They were just elated, that they had a little something, but that their names had been used. Talk about the importance of a name, right?
Right.
So Fred DuPont, I challenge you to create your own celebration for Christmas in whatever tradition you had in your home country. Any little piece of it, you can have that celebration right there in China.
Oh yeah, I will do something. I will
Good.
do something. Thank you, Wayne.
And finally, Wayne, I want to point out that Albert Einstein said that imagination is more important than knowledge. So take that for what it's worth.
It's
They
worth a
don't
lot.
they don't do anything for the holidays in prison, huh?
No, yeah, they gave us a little bag of snacks. Actually, it was nice. What little bit they did was nice. They always had a very nice meal on Christmas. We got a couple little Cornish game hens, and Christmas and Thanksgiving were special meals. That meant a lot to us.
Yeah.
It meant an awful lot. And there's a festive feeling there, more one of I'd have to say love. It's like something about Christmas toned down the macho attitudes, and we were all kind of stuck in there together, wishing we were with our families, and so we made the best of it. Yeah, Christmas was it had a special feeling about it for sure. And I think the staff tried. They at least tried.
That's, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Excellent, excellent,
In 3
excellent.
weeks. Happy holidays.
Love
See
you
you in 3
guys.
weeks.
Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas.
Happy Christmas and New Year. All
Talk
right.
to you soon.